Hi everyone, it's Jack here, Director of MSKR, MSK Reform, the grassroots MSK think tank, and I'm bringing you a bit of an update because it's coming up to our year anniversary, our birthday, call it what you will. We've got lots of things that have been going on, but especially lots of things that we want to announce, not just to members and supporters, but anyone else that's interested, including the categories of members and supporters. Now, the first thing to announce straight out the gates is that we're doing a birthday event, an online event, just because the obvious. But we're doing that on the 23rd of October in the evening, and we wanted to announce and launch, and this is the announcement of it, but that will be the first event, first episode, therefore, of the Thinking in Public series. We had a massively popular Thinking in Public event years ago, in the build-up when we were doing that for what was then the Big R's. We then had a Thinking in Public stream at Therapy Live, a day-long event, panel after panel of interesting discussions and topics with the best of speakers thinking about policy and reforms. And so that was really popular, and we've been, thousands of people engaging in policy. It's just a fantastic sort of, sometimes these are niche topics and you want to get your teeth into them and you want to try and move and strive towards something better. And so this Thinking in Public style that we've been able to develop over time has been incredibly popular. And so we're bringing that to there will be then monthly. We're going to be making sure that we do the monthly, although as a podcast, it may well be something that then gets put out more regularly than that with our associate directors and their working group leads. We've got a number of people working really hard on all things MSK reform, striving towards some of the policy suggestions and proposals that were put in the Manifesto for Reform, which if you haven't read it, then please do, but also listen for a little bit later in this announcement to hear about how else you might be able to digest the Manifesto for Reform. So on the 23rd, it's a free event, free tickets. We are accepting donations to MSK Reform. I don't want to get this wrong now, but we're calling it APP, FCP, LOL, acronyms. Was it? Should know this, shouldn't I? Roles, careers, and acronyms. I think it's the catchy title for the event. But basically, 2-hour session, and the 90 minutes is going to be the bulk of the actual panel discussion. We're going to have a real who's who of thinkers across various different sectors and different takes on the matter. But then the MSKR Big R's way is to have every panelist gets a chance to give their hot take on it. So they get sort of 5 minutes and they might even demonstrate and play some slides or whatever, or just generally give their take. Then a moderated discussion amongst the panel. And then that's so half an hour's hot takes, half an hour's discussion amongst the panel, and then half an hour would be then you guys getting into weigh in with your questions from the floor and participate. As I said before, I participate pretty thoroughly with that, which is brilliant. So that's what to look forward to. 23rd of August, 23rd of October, and attendees to that get an opportunity. And this is one of the first times this is going to have been mentioned, but MSKR attendees to our birthday event will get it will be a competition, like a prize draw, but we'll have a really good chance of winning a year's access to what will be Physio Matters Plus, which will be all loads of exclusive content through Physio Matters, but also access to everything Therapy Live has created, and then goes on to create. So it's kind of then basically you're going to get a number of prizes for the delegates of our birthday event that are going to get that exclusive prize, and it's going to be we're going to be very generous in that direction, let's say. Now that brings me on to our members. So we launched as a think tank, and members really participated in the refining of priorities of policy. So we published a manifesto for reform in which there's lots of policies in there, and then we refined that down through our early membership. Really interesting because we wanted the members were essentially the activists that are at the heart of MSKR, paid their dues, got their voting share, and then have helped to shape the organization. It wasn't long. We only incorporated in the October, and therefore you can imagine it's not been long for us to find his feet before we needed to really make adjustments according to the pandemic, like everyone has. So what we're doing is anyone that's been a member in the first year of us operating are then going to be considered founding members. Okay, and that's going to bring with it some added benefits. They're going to be sort of considered the foundations of the organization, and there are several perks that we're going to be bringing your way, including, and this is me announcing it again, is that if you're a founding member of MSK Reform, you will also then get lifetime access to Physio Matters Plus, and that is our premium platform of basically how we're going to move all the material that we create for Physio Matters and for Therapy Live. And so there's more to come about how Physio Matters Plus is going to operate, but just so you know, MSKR's founding members are going to get that as well as a number of other perks, and are going to be declared and marked as founding members as we evaluate the membership structure as well as the membership costs ongoing. But basically, that's as a massive thank you for your support in that time. Also, our founding members are then getting an optional. You can opt into having a 6-month extension to your membership, because there's been many different things that we were planning to do that we've not been able to because of the pandemic. And so what we're doing is we were going to do it as standard, but we've had a number of members get in touch with us and saying we want to continue to support and fund what you do. We've been impressed with what you've been doing in the pandemic especially. And so they were saying that they wanted to opt out of it. We've made it instead, we're going to say that that's an option, and you need to get in touch with us. If you're an MSKR member, now a founding member of MSKR, then get in touch with us, and there will be an email that goes out later today or tomorrow that will explain how you opt into a 6-month extension, which is free of charge. And so, yes, that's when your membership renewal comes round, then you can opt into a 6-month additional bonus thing, right? So that's something that we just wanted to do as a thank you because of the number of challenges that we've all faced, and the fact that that's something that you signed up for something and it's changed without fault of yours, and hopefully no fault of ours as well. But like I said, we were going to do it as standard, but a number of you got in touch with us saying that you wanted to continue to pay your dues into MSK Reform. 3 key things that we've done, especially over the pandemic, being that we ran a rehab recruits campaign, which was basically offering up rehab services and essentially making the case. I think that's the thing that people have been most impressed with, is that we made the case for rehab and how that would be something that a rehab workforce would be of massive benefit to the NHS and to, of course, society at large. We weren't taken up on it quite as much as we'd like, but it certainly moved people in a direction of policy. There's certainly circumstances for us to continue to bang that drum, and we are doing in many different ways, but though people were happy with that. Then we had the MSKR.info, which is the go-to patient-facing education site. So basically, anyone with MSK problems, we've got therapists that are sending people to MSKR.info and giving us incredible rave reviews. There's nothing more frustrating than mixed messages and people using Dr. Google. So at least now you've got something you can trust. So MSKR.info, patient resource site, has been incredibly popular, not just with our members, but also beyond into our supporters and anyone that just sort of knows of what we're doing. And then the Thinking in Public conference at Therapy Live was something that has really moved people's take on it. They've then encouraged us to do more events and to start doing that more regularly, which is what we're doing now for the birthday event and then ongoing. And so it's been a really interesting thing. Those are 3 key things that MSKR has been doing in the last 6 months. And so for in support of that, there's members that have got in touch saying that they want to renew as standard. But if you want to opt into a 6-month extension, then get in touch if you're a member. We're also then considering people that have been participating and joining in with things like rehab recruits and Thinking in Public streams and starting to engage with MSK Reform more regularly. They are going to be considered supporters. So we've got your contact information that you've then opted into various different communications from us. Then we're going to be having you guys involved as supporters of MSKR and using that language. So your members that are involved in working groups and voting stakes and things like that. And you've got loads of perks that you're going to be getting, including, as I said before, various different paid options that are available from our partner organizations. But also then we've got these supporters that are going to be able to help with the ability for us to move many thousands of people that are involved and interested in supporting what we're doing. Imagine about thousands of people that have downloaded the manifesto, the summary documents, that have been reading on and supporting a lot of what we've been doing. The thousands of people that across disciplines that joined the Rehab Recruits campaign. Massive support that we've had for MSK Reform, and so we want to bring you guys in various different ways. Obviously, membership options as well as how else you can get involved. But generally, we want that support level to also exist. So there's more to come on that on the birthday event. But I just thought I'd let you guys know that that's going to be an option that comes available. One thing I can show you This would have helped me when I was trying to remember what we were calling the thing, wouldn't it? But yeah, this is the Eventbrite page. So if you haven't already, then click on the link on the description and get your ticket for this, because we've only got 1,000 tickets, and you know what it's like with our stuff. Then typically that goes pretty damn quickly. So do check it out. But essentially on Eventbrite, we're running FCP, APP, LOL, roles, careers, and acronyms. Can we wade through the confusion and come to something better? Or are there challenges that are being ignored even at this stage, this somewhat late stage? Oh, lost my frame. There we go. Felt naked then. Right. So that's the event. That's the membership things. What else have I got on my list to talk about today? Membership extension I've done. Now, Thinking in Public is going to become a series. So beyond that, we're going to have webinar events, not necessarily all the big song and dance, 1,000 tickets type stuff that we're going to be doing like that every month, but we are going to be having our associate directors and their working groups bringing panels together to try and move things. And instead of, the thing with us is that we just don't like a lot of the backroom dealing that goes on with regards to policy and governance and changing education and how we exert influence amongst the wider public. Amount of interesting conversations that happen behind closed doors for no good reason. There's no sensible secrecy or diplomacy that needs to be going on there. It's often just the fact that those are conversations that are kept from Joe Blogs, and the decisions that get made and the ways in which to try and exert influence. Often it is Joe Blogs, it's the jobbing clinicians that have then been kept out of that room, no seat at that table, but then are expected to enact them. So coming up with a advocacy policy, and then it's actually the clinicians that are meant to be trying to transmit that, and it's just like, no, let's think in public, let's involve as many people as we can, let's use digital platforms to try to make sure that everyone feels like they've got a voice and can contribute, can vote, can really contribute in many different ways to it, as involved or as not as they want to. If they can be a spectator, that's fine, but let's not pretend that those few people around the table are the ones that need to be the decision makers. Let's think in public about it. And so we're going to be doing that on a monthly basis, and that's going to be really interesting, and that will rotate across our disciplines. So we'll have things about clinical excellence, we'll have things about governance, things about education, the way in which media influence, and the other ways in which we can influence patients and society at large, and then of course evidence-informed practice. And so you think of our associate directors that are in charge of those working groups and the things that they're doing to drive towards policy in that direction. It's going to be absolutely brilliant for them to, on a monthly basis. They'll rotate that, of course, but basically you'll have almost every 6 months you'll have something from each of those that they'll be working up in the meantime. So there'll be some serious events that will be then pushed across on social media. Sometimes there'll be ticketed events. Sometimes it'll just be then pushed across social media as well as then onto a podcast platform. So yeah, really interesting to see what comes of that. And as a birthday present to our members, and also as another offering for those who haven't necessarily been able to digest or wanted to digest the Manifesto for Reform in its PDF form, which is a free download, or in its hard copy form for those that have managed to get their hands on one as a member. The Manifesto for Reform is also being read as an audiobook by our associate directors as we speak. And for our birthday event, that will be available then. I think it will be available for donations as an audiobook. So the Manifesto for Reform, the flagship document that this suggests a roadmap as to how we can reform certain areas of practice and accept the complexity that's involved in it, but then makes a suggestion of progressive policy. We have then, between the authors of it, they've done a read of that in audiobook form, which we're going to get together, and it'll be available for the birthday event on the 23rd of October. So yeah, do join us for that event, as well as then participate with or share the audiobook as widely as you can. It's going to be a really interesting format for that too. I think we might try and serialize that as well across various different platforms. It's just a really interesting way of other people consuming that material. It will reinvigorate some of the arguments that are made in it, as well as then highlighting what we decided to prioritize. And the working groups, as you'll hear in the Thinking in Public events that are coming, the working groups who've started to get back going again now, they've got some fantastic work, and they really are going to change the game. I mean, we've said that before, and we've continued to prove that, and people have underestimated us before, but the way in which some of the policies that are being strived towards, and some of the ways in which, admittedly, the interesting thing for me is how the pandemic has helped to move certain things. Let me give you an example. In governance terms, there's so many things that we were suggesting that people suggested were too ambitious or naive, that they wouldn't change in that direction. You think about the way in which a better understanding of a baseline governance across MSK, regardless of sector or discipline, Imagine how valuable that would be, or how the CQC being able to appropriately regulate at least safety grounds, or ideally clinical competency grounds within MSK private practice, and what that would mean for the local MSK services in times of need like this one. It's not hard for us to make that argument right now, and it kind of was last year. And so you imagine that the mountains that are going to be moved by that argument now relative to then. There's been many things that have been disrupted negatively, but there's also several things that are going to be more promising and more likely for us to act on now. And we've got the infrastructure to do so, which is testament to our founding members, our key activists, our voting stake members that are involved in what we're doing. So massive thanks to them, and trust me, the future is very bright for MSKR, and I'll have more news for you on the birthday event as to what that means and what the roadmap is going forward. A reflection from me and Felicity, of course, at that event about what we were planning, what we haven't been able to do, what that has then meant for membership, and what it will mean for what constitutes membership and supportership going forward. You know, we want to be thinking in public in that direction too, and being honest about what we're planning. But the event itself is going to be an absolute cracker. It's certainly going to be fiery. There's not going to be any holds barred there with regards to opinion. Some really interesting thoughts, and we've got a really interesting panel, loads of diverse voices there for us to get stuck into for all things First Contact. So check out the links in the description, as I've mentioned. Please send your comments in and let us know what you think, because I'm really interested in hearing more from you all about what you'd like to see on Thinking in Public, what you'd like from MSKR, what you've been happy with, what you haven't been, what you feel we want to discuss more, and what you feel like actually is being exhausted. Let us know. Any feedback is much appreciated, and thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing this, and do get in touch if you have any questions. All right, thanks a lot, guys.